All right. Hello, everybody. Welcome back to another market close. We are here at 3:46 p.m. Monday, April 8th. I hope everyone is doing well. Look, I'm going to start this off with something that I got to say. Got to get it off my chest. I hope we have an authentic enough relationship, me and the channel, where I can say this and not get roasted for it, even though I'm probably going to get roasted for it. But whatever. I got to say it. Everyone's talking about it, so I'm just going to get it off my chest. I don't care about the solar eclipse, okay? Like, I see everyone posting about it. People are texting me like, hey, are you watching? No, I don't care. I don't care. I really could, like, I tried to figure out, like, why should I care? Like, once in a lifetime opportunity. This is so important. I'm just like, it's not like it just looks like the Amazon logo on top of the sun. I just don't care, dude. I was watching Biden talk about student loans. I actually cared a lot more about that than going outside and putting on some fucking weird glasses to try to understand the student loans. Wow. Some people are saying no. Jose, my guy, he doesn't care either. David, Colorado, who might be from Colorado, he doesn't care either. Okay. I'm beneficial. He doesn't care either. I love it. I love it. Thank you. Put in the chat if you don't give a shit about the solar eclipse. Like, we are human beings. I'm worried about making money, dude. Like, I've got so much shit to do today. I'm trying to figure out everything. People are like, oh, you got to go outside and watch the solar. Why? What is that going to do for my life? I mean, truly. By the way, YouTube had a live stream with like 250,000 people on it. I saw it for a second. I saw what it looks like. It looked kind of cool. It was, but I don't care. I just don't care. And I'm so thankful some people in the chat don't care either. We had a bunch of people here saying they just don't care. I love it. Ephemeral doesn't care. Goldfish Duck doesn't care. Davidness doesn't care. Bay Ray doesn't care. It's okay to not care about something, even though everyone cares about it. So I had to get that off my chest. I'm sorry. I had to. I saw everyone going crazy about this thing, and I'm like, I kind of get why you care, but like, I don't care. Like, I honestly, like, there are things in human existence you have to experience and like live, and like, you know, when you want to see these things before you die and stuff like that. Like, I get it, but like on a random Monday to like watch the solar eclipse, I don't know, dude. It just wasn't that interesting. Lena doesn't care either. Thank you, guys. See, this is how I know me and the chat are much more closer than we think, because we have the same interests. We don't give a shit. We do not give a shit. We investors are a different breed. Yeah, look, maybe like people like, maybe you're just a little bit more busy throughout the day. You care about other things, so you don't care that much about something natural happening. I do think, going outside and viewing all these things, they're beautiful. And I love hiking and all this stuff. I'm not opposed to any of that. But I do like having Wi-Fi on and being inside and just like working. Like, I also like that too. So, all right, there we go. Garcia says, notice how Mid is ignoring the messages of people who give a shit. Look, if you give a shit, I have nothing against you. I just hope no one has something against me for not giving a shit, because I did not give a shit. I really did not care. All right, let's talk about something I do give a lot of shits about, which is the stock market. Oh, sorry, the global equity capital markets. Let's talk about that. Markets did good today. Markets did pretty damn good. Nothing too crazy. We got Palantir here at 23.01. I closed my put credit spreads on Palantir. My strike was 22.50 on those. If you don't understand what a put credit spread is, at its basic at the basic level, Palantir has to be above 22.50 by the expiration date. And I wrote those a week ago thinking like, we're going to be fine. And then I didn't realize, holy shit, we have CPI coming up. And I was just like, oh boy, dude, that CPI thing, I don't want to risk it. So I got out of those unscathed. So break even, didn't make anything, didn't lose anything. But CPI is coming out on Wednesday, and I think it's going to be an ugly report. I do think the market's going to eat it up and not worry too much about it, but I don't want to risk it, because if it's a nasty report, yeah, we're going to have a little bit of a red week. So Palantir right here at 23 bucks, holding up not too bad. Bitcoin, 71,776. Bitcoin as well, holding that $71,000 level. I think ETF inflows are not going to be too bad. If GBTC has a crap ton of outflows, then we're going to see some nasty outflows later throughout the day, or like when everything sells off, probably after the market close. So we'll see what happens there. But so far, inflows seem to be okay. Bitcoin just under 72,000. Destiny Tech 100, this ETF we talked about, it's up 72%. Again, if you missed it, you missed it. Is there still more room to run? I don't know. I wouldn't try to guess that there is and then chase this thing. This thing is up DXYZ It basically owns SpaceX and OpenAI. Those are like the main holdings. DXYZ is up over the past 3 months, 1,000%. It was $8 on March 26, 2024. Dude, I mean, look, it's one of those things where I know how much it hurts that you missed it. I missed it too, but it's also one of those things where it's like, you didn't think an ETF that had access to SpaceX and OpenAI at probably valuations that no one knows about is up, 1,000% or would go up 1,000%. But money pummeled in. And so now these guys have a market cap of 1.12 billion. I don't even know if that makes sense. I don't really think that makes sense. It's trading at a pretty insane premium. And so now you got to deal with this thing being at this level. Will this thing crash and burn like DJT, which has not had a good day? Trump right here down about 10% of the day, 36.59. We'll see. It would really take people kind of just selling off and capturing those gains, which, look, if you're up on DXYZ and like it's up 1,000%, right? So let's say you're only up 40%, 50%, forget triple digit percentages. You are up on a fund that owns SpaceX and OpenAI. And SpaceX and OpenAI still have to prove themselves over the next decade. So the idea that the fund is going to keep going up without those two companies producing monumental results that would justify the valuations of them starting to go higher is a little weird to think, because those companies have to execute, right? OpenAI still has to put up numbers, so does SpaceX. Now, I'm not saying you should bet against those companies, but I'm just saying that if an ETF is up 1,000% and it holds those two as their main holdings, and they're about to dilute the ETF with a ton of other startup holdings, whether it's Anthropic, Discord, whatever it is, you got to really ask yourself, how much juice does that thing have left? So it's one of those things that I would be a little iffy to just jump in it. We got Garcia who degened into this thing up 25%. So I mean, look, it's not horrible to have some profits on this, but again, we've seen these crash and burn all throughout the year with SoundHound. Where's SoundHound right now? Is that thing even alive? Yeah, SoundHound, $5. Lunar. We haven't checked on Lunar in a minute. Lunar, how's that one doing? Yeah, it's $5.12 as well. And then obviously DJT, that's had a tough time. But if you made money on it, congrats. And I hope it keeps going up. I hope it keeps going up and you get to go long on this thing. It is up 1,000% though in like less than 30 days. So you got to just be a little careful on that one. Alpha up 3% on the day. PayPal having a nice day up 1.73%. Unveils, Vitaly tweeted today that he's buying Unveils. His thesis is that it's in a wedge, and the wedge is going to break out soon. That's based on his technical analysis. I don't necessarily know if that's correct, but Enphase right now at 115, that's up 3% of the day. Amazon having a great day, trying to get to that all-time high of 188. MicroStrategy as well, up 5.5%. DNA, Ginkgo Bioworks up about 4%. Bitcoin 71,815. Snowflake 154. Coinbase 256. CleanSpark's been getting destroyed. Again, it's weird that CleanSpark can't go up on a day where Bitcoin goes up 4%. It's very weird. And I'm not saying the Bitcoin mining thesis is broken, but it is weird, isn't it? Like, it's very weird. Robinhood even up 1856. Robinhood hit, I think, 1890 at one point today. Marathon, how's that one doing? Wow, that one's red as well. Why are the Bitcoin miners red today? That's very interesting, dude. They're all red. Yeah, Hut 8 mining is up a little bit. Cypher's up a little bit. And then the main ones, Marathon, Riot, and CleanSpark are just red. Even Coinbase up almost 7% on the day. 256. Well, they go up when Bitcoin goes up. MicroStrategy goes up when Bitcoin goes up. Miners struggling to maintain that level. I think the public perception around the miners' revenue being cut in half, which is technically going to happen when Bitcoin cuts in half or the halving event happens, is a little scary to people. Now, theoretically, Bitcoin needs to go higher so that their margins stay the same, even though the halving event occurs. But if Bitcoin doesn't go higher, then the Bitcoin mining companies are not going to make a lot of money. Like, they're going to lose a lot of money. So I think that's something that's scaring the markets right now. And it's not necessarily the best situation for the miners. SoFi 777. So SoFi's had a phenomenal day. SoFi right here, look at that, up 5% on the day. If you pick this bad boy up at 680, congrats. I started buying a little bit more at 680. I got a bunch from my dad at 680 as well. This thing looks like it's trying to break out of a pattern where it was just depressed for a good 2-3 months. It had one pop during Q1 earnings, and then it came right back down. I think SoFi, what they're going to need on Q1 is a sentiment changer. I don't know what that's going to be. I don't know how they're going to create it, but they need an announcement that doesn't just show good member growth or doesn't just show increased deposits. They need to change the sentiment around the company. And I really hope Noto has something up his sleeve to change the sentiment. Because once you change the sentiment, we've seen around many stocks that were in this $6 to $7 range, they break out to double digits, and then from double digits, they make their way on to the 20s. And then once they're in the 20s, they kind of solidify there. Even if it takes another 2 years for SoFi to really get to like 17, 18 aggressively, which I don't think it's going to take 2 years, but let's say it does, they need a sentiment changer right now because this bad boy's been stuck at 7 for a year at this point. I remember May 2023, I was buying options when it was at $4, $5. So it's got to really find some momentum, and hopefully it does over the coming weeks as we go into earnings. Truist at 38.82, SMCI 9.27. SMCI actually down 2% of the day. NVIDIA also didn't have the best day. NVIDIA down. You want to see the S&P up when NVIDIA is down because that means the rally is broadening. 8.79 on NVIDIA, S&P 5.18. So S&P is basically flat. It's red right now, but it was green for the majority of the day. Let's go to Mag 7. How do they do? Apple, Microsoft, Meta, all red. Meta red about 2%. Google green, Amazon green, Nvidia red, and then Tesla is green. So let's talk about Tesla. Dude, Tesla has held up so damn well. And I think if you're a shareholder of Tesla, you should be cautiously surprised. I think you should be cautious because we all know, especially if you understand Tesla, that this thing should not be at 172 given the things that have happened in terms of the actual numbers that we've seen over the past couple of weeks. But if you understand FSD, the potential of FSD, and now the potential of a robotaxi that seems like it's actually coming to market maybe in August, or at least the potential of it in August, that also is what's getting Wall Street incredibly excited about the potential of what's going to happen. I mean, this stock should not be up 5% after the couple of weeks it's had, which have been horrendous, but people are buying it. And I don't think it's just retail. I really don't think the 100 million shares that have been trading today are just retail buying it up. I do think the street is looking at FSD potential and they're like, hey, what other company is really going to be able to execute on this? And Tesla's the only one that comes in mind. And as a result of that, there you go. Tesla is there. Bay Ray says, we know what earnings will do to the stock. If you're saying that about SoFi, yes, earnings might pump SoFi and then it tanks back down. So I understand that, which is why Noto needs to have a sentiment changer. For Tesla, earnings will definitely tank Tesla. But my question is, how bad is it going to tank it? Like, really, how bad? Like, everyone knows what the earnings numbers are going to be. Once you have the delivery numbers, you can easily figure out what the revenue and EPS looks like. Like Wall Street knows this. It's not going to be a surprise. And the surprise was the 387 last week. That was the surprise. That's what really messed it up. But it recovered from that. It's like everyone bought the dip. So I really wonder how bad earnings has to be for this thing to take a nasty tumble. And I just don't know at this point if it's actually going to be as bad as Wall Street says it's going to be. And so we'll see. We'll see how that one turns out. All right, we got the market close. And then we have a bunch of stories we have to cover after the market close. In how many seconds? In 10 seconds. All right, so let's see where these companies close today, April 8th, 4 p.m. Thank you, everybody, for being here. The stock market is now closed. All right, markets are closed. What do we got? SoFi ending the day up 4.86%, a much-needed green day for SoFi. There you go. S&P ends green as well. It's flat, but still 518.67. We do have a little bit of green for the S&P. CPI might change that in a couple days. Might not. We're going to see what that CPI report looks like on Wednesday morning. I'll be live 8:20 a.m. Eastern. Palantir 2301. Nice close above 23. Let's see if that holds in after hours. But we got 23. Robinhood up 0.87% of the day, 1856. Tesla 172.98. After hours 173. Again, just a phenomenal performance by Tesla today. After many people thought on Friday that it would take a bigger hit, given the report that came out by Reuters. Apple 168. This one's down. Market really doesn't understand what the hell's going on with Apple or what they're trying to do. Alibaba 71.74. Dogecoin. Nice rebound today as well. 20 cents. I think it hit 22 cents over the weekend. It was stuck at like 16 cents over the past 2 weeks, broke out to 20 cents right now. So Dogecoin is having some momentum as well. QQQ 440.79. NYCB 32.95, 3.295. Let's look at the crypto stocks on the day. They are all relatively green except for the miners. CleanSpark is green after hours, down 2% on the day. Marathon down 2%. Riot's down 1%. Robinhood 1856. That's up. Coinbase 257, that's up about 6%. And then MicroStrategy up another 5.1% today at 1519. So Cold, what's up? Thank you for being here today. Tesla doesn't give guidance. So Tesla usually gives guidance in Q1. I think people were confused in Q4. They didn't give Q1 numbers, but they never do that. But in Q1, they give Q2 numbers, or at least that's my understanding of it. So I don't think they're going to give full year guidance, but they're going to give some, hopefully, understanding of what volumes and deliveries will look like going into 2024, and then the street can adjust their estimates. Remember, the magic number is 531,000. Tesla has to deliver 531,000 vehicles for every quarter this year in order to reach a 10% CAGR year over year in terms of growth of deliveries, which it does not look like they're going to do 531. It's going to be really hard to do that. If they do that, I think the street would be very excited, just even for 10%. Seems more like it'll go to 7 or 8% for the year. Apple at 168, Microsoft 424, Meta 519, Google 156, Google up 2% of the day, Amazon 185.19, Nvidia 871, and then Tesla again 173 for the Max 7. Semis also relatively red day, but nothing crazy. Intel, well, yeah, Intel keeps falling. Intel lost to TSM when it came to a $6 billion subsidy from the Biden administration to build chips, down 2% on the day. TSM up 1% on the day. Nvidia was down. AMD was down a little bit, 169. SMCI 928 down 2%, and then ARM 129 up 3.55% on the day as well. Alex says, do you watch the Eclipse? Alex, you missed my intro to the market close. I just didn't care about the Eclipse. I tried to care. I really did not care. I tried to get excited. I was like, oh, the Eclipse. It's so important. It's like, no, dude, I didn't care. I'm sorry. I didn't care. I was listening to Joe Biden talk about student loans. Speaking of Joe Biden and student loans, let's get an update on what's happening in the world of student loans. Now, this update was very quick. He talked for like 10 minutes, dude, and he did not say anything. He did not say anything interesting. It was actually a pretty bad announcement. So here is what we have on student loans. Now, even if you don't have student loans, this definitely affects every investor because it absolutely will increase inflation if they are to print a lot more money, which does affect CPI, and that obviously affects the stock market. However, it's not really anything new. So these are the 5 updates. First plan, he's going to cancel $20,000 in interest on people who have accumulated up to $20K since 2020. So if you have like $100,000 of student loans or whatever, and you've racked up $20,000 over the past couple of years, this is his response to Jay Powell raising rates aggressively. People are like, well, it's not my fault that Jay Powell raised rates. And so Biden's like, well, yeah, you're right. It's not your fault. So we're going to cancel some of those. We're going to cancel 20,000 of that interest based on the high interest rates that people have had to rack up over the past few years. So that's the first thing. I don't know how they get that passed, but that's the first thing he said he's going to do. And by the way, he can't use executive order because he tried to do that last time and Supreme Court said no. So I don't really understand the logistics on how this even goes through. If anything, this might just be marketing for votes. That is one argument that people have thrown around. Second, Biden will cancel all student loans for people who have had that debt for 20 years. That's nothing new. We've known that for a very long time. They've done this on the under the public loan forgiveness program for a while. So I don't know why that's new. Maybe they're extending that program or implementing it to more people, but that's been there for a while. Third, Biden plans to cancel debt for another 2 million borrowers who are eligible through the PLF, the public loan forgiveness program. If you're a police, firefighter, teacher, etc., but are currently not enrolled in it, basically finding people who should be in the program and making them sign up so they can get their loans forgiven. Again, this is not new either. This is just like doing more recruitment for people that should have loans forgiven but aren't signed up. It's just saying, hey, sign up. So again, that's literally nothing new from my understanding. Fourth, he's going to cancel debt for borrowers who the Department of Education deems have been cheated of an education from faulty colleges. This also isn't new. If you've gone to a college like, we all know the Trump college didn't really work out that well, Trump University, and you got you paid for something, but you didn't really get a degree or a real education, they're going to cancel those student loans. That's been around for the past 10 years. So I don't think that's new either. I think they just said that to say that, but that's been around for a very long time. And then fifth plan, Biden will cancel debt for people who are facing financial hardship. There were no specifics on what do you mean by financial hardships. But he said, yeah, if you have financial hardship, you will be getting student debt. So my take on this is that this is a nice show, but none of these updates are new, just expanding existing programs. It's a far cry from the $10,000 guarantee in cancellations across the board. No matter if you have 10,000 in loans or 100,000 loans, he said in 2020, he will take off $10,000. That would have printed $400 billion from taxpayers. $400 billion that we do not have, given we're already struggling with inflation. So the Supreme Court got rid of that. They said that's unconstitutional, so he wasn't able to do that. So it's not really an election promise. The only new thing I see is the 20,000 interest cancellation, which is probably helpful. But again, I'm just not sure how they get that passed. So if you do have student loans, those are the updates. It does not seem like if you're not a teacher, firefighter, nurse, you're not in the public loan forgiveness program. And by the way, to be in that program, you have had to have paid your student loans on time for the past 5-10 years to even qualify to be able to get those loans forgiven, which I think it's not the worst idea in the world to forgive people who are working in the public sector. I think there's an argument you can make for why that's good. Obviously, forgiving people who have gotten majors and things that relatively don't matter, especially when the colleges were subsidized to give them the major from the government. So literally the root cause of the problem that was the government subsidizing loans is now subsidizing the loans again. That doesn't sound like a solution to me. But that solution that Biden ran on is not what he's promising here. So, and because there's no way he can do it, the Supreme Court said no. So going to be very hard, I think, to get some of these passed. The programs they already have, they're just going to be extending those. So it's not like anything's going to be passing. The thing here is, what does the marketing look like going into September? I'm surprised he's actually announcing it so early. I thought he would announce this closer to September, because then he can say, hey, if you want me versus Biden or versus Trump, then you better vote now, because here's all the promises I'm laying out, basically what he did 4 years ago. But instead, they're rolling it out in April. And I think they're rolling it out in April because they can probably pass some of the basic things that are already in law. They just have to extend those things and then count that as a victory. I just don't know if most people are going to think of it as a victory. But that's what we got in terms of Biden and the student loan updates right now. Let me know in the chat. What do you guys think? Do you think there is any argument to get rid of student loans, even 10, 20,000 per borrower? Or do you think everyone deserves to pay off their loans the way that most people in the chat probably paid off their loans? I paid off, how much did I pay? Dude, I paid 15 grand my senior year in cash. I had a job, so I paid off the last of my senior year. I have 8 grand left that I've been paying off $500 a month. And I paid for my room and board my junior and senior year, and then my parents helped freshman and sophomore year. So I basically paid junior and senior year, and my parents paid freshman and sophomore year, and I have 8,000 left. So, I mean, I know what it feels like to send a check to Rutgers to pay for an education that, quite frankly, wasn't really. I'm not saying the education was bad. I'm just saying it was just it really didn't, it didn't make a broader difference in my life. Rutgers made a difference in my life. The education, the social experience, the epistemological growth, the women, you know what I mean? But the actual education really didn't help that much. Let's get an update on the broadening out of the rally to happen, even if we don't get a rate cut. Here we go.
To our talk of the tape, whether stocks can continue to rise if bond yields do as well. Now, let's ask Anastasia Amoroso, iCapital's chief investment strategist, with me here at Post 9. It's good to see you.
Good to see you, Scott.
That is the key question, right? If rates continue to back up, are stocks going to go down?
Well, so far, so good for stocks, even though bond yields are rising. And of course, the reason for that is that bond yields are rising because growth is improving as well. And yes, there's also an improvement, or deterioration, I should say, in inflation expectations. But for now, because you have better earnings expectations, we can shake that off. So I think if the moves are somewhat contained here, I think we're fine despite the backup. But obviously, if you have anything closer to a breakout to 480, I think we would have to worry about.
Okay, so you agree with what Tony Pasquarello of Goldman Sachs was talking about in his new note, where he says, he asks this question, which I think is the most relevant question of any right now. When do higher rates begin to bite?
Yep.
And he suggests a move towards 480 is where things could get tricky.
Yeah, I think the move right now has been more about the pickup in economic growth. It has been about stronger payrolls. It has been about stronger manufacturing, and therefore the Fed pushing back the rate cut expectations. But to the extent that the move starts being driven by inflation expectations, so of course we've got CPI on Wednesday, and if that's a surprise and that continues to reprice the inflation expectations higher, I think that's where it becomes dangerous for stocks.
Are you still optimistic about the overall direction for the market and the economy? Right, Jamie Dimon's out talking in his letter about sort of, we have this foregone conclusion almost, the markets do, that it's going to be a soft landing, where he says markets are pricing in 70 to 80% chance of that. I believe he says, quote, the odds are a lot lower than that.
I'm still in the soft landing camp, but I actually think that the last several weeks or months of data has really reinvigorated the no landing camp. And so we wrote this piece last week about an uptick in manufacturing. I actually think that's a really big story for the rest of the year, is we're starting to see an uptick in the US, China, global manufacturing, new orders component is improving. But I think we're early innings of what is typically a 9-month uptick in manufacturing. So if that's the case, then you could have a lot of cyclical momentum that develops in the economy. And Scott, this used to be a one-engine economy with the US consumer really supporting the globe and supporting all the industries. But now if that broadens out and you can have industrials and materials and energy participate, I think that's what gives me confidence on the economic front.
And I mean, I agree with her there. The thing that's giving me a lot of confidence as well about the economy is seeing that something like Apple and Tesla, I talked about this in the morning, are down, but the market is up. Like we really, really, really need to see some of those companies not be the contingent variables that allow the broader markets to rally. And I think we're seeing that right now with some of the big 7 names down, but the overall market doing well. And that broadening is important. Now, CPI on Wednesday, I mean, that's going to be a big one, dude. That's one that you got to watch out for that one. Because if that one comes in hot, if CPI comes in hot, this will be the 3rd hot CPI in a row. We had one in January. It's whatever. We had one in February. That's not that big of a deal. We get one in March. Again, 3 in a row. I mean, it's going to be one of those things where you got to start asking yourself, like, what's going on here? Do we need to hike? I'm not going to be the guy saying the Fed's going to hike. There's plenty of other bears saying that. But if that thing comes in bad, either the Fed has enough confidence that data is lagging and eventually it'll come in good. But if April comes in bad, if there's 4 in a row, yeah, there's probably a hike, dude. Like forget a rate cut at that point. Like if especially if core PCE comes in bad in April, like there's just no way. The Fed has a mandate to get inflation back down to 2%. They might cut aggressively towards the end of the year after they hike again, right? Do 50 basis points versus 25 at once. But if April comes in bad, there's going to be a hike. And I don't think anyone believes that inflation is necessarily coming down. I mean, we're seeing this with gold and Bitcoin, right? Like, I think that's kind of what the secondary assets market are trying to tell us, that Bitcoin at 71,659, the Bitcoin bulls will tell you that we are experiencing much more inflation than what the Fed wants us to assume, which is why global liquidity is going to get higher. Quantitative easing is going to start technically, right? Because we are lowering the growth of how fast we're doing quantitative tightening, which is in a way a form of quantitative easing, which means liquidity is there. Liquidity being there, solidified by the ETFs and the halving event, kind of comes up to the perfect formula for Bitcoin going higher. I mean, just like from a macroeconomic point, that makes sense. If inflation were aggressively declining, one could argue that Bitcoin might not be trending the way it's trending, because the dollar would actually be able to be invested in, and gold wouldn't be going up as much as it's going up either. So the thing about equities is that I think it's a really interesting situation, because you've got to be positioned in the right equities to take advantage of this. That's why a lot of people that are in crypto stocks are in crypto stocks. Like the people that are in MicroStrategy, they don't believe that inflation's coming down. They do believe Bitcoin's going to go up, but they want alpha to Bitcoin. So the way they get exposure to that is a CleanSpark or a MicroStrategy or a Marathon, whatever that may be. It's going to be interesting to see how the bigger companies operate. Now, all of that being said, AI is still a thing. And Meta is going to crush earnings. NVIDIA is going to crush earnings. All these companies are going to absolutely demolish earnings, which begs the question, how much can the market give a further premium to companies that are already up? Meta 50% year to date, Amazon up 23% year to date on the backs of AI, even though inflation is still bad. I think those are things that, really the market's going to have to figure out how they deal with that in the coming weeks as we get earnings. And so we'll see. We'll see how that plays out. But right now, and look, maybe CPI is not that bad on Wednesday. Maybe it's just a lot of fear mongering that I'm seeing, and it's not too bad. I think shelter will come in lower than what people think. Oil is bad right now, but I think that'll come down eventually as well. So maybe it's not going to be that bad. But if it is that bad, then we're going to have to seriously think about, when we actually are going to get these rate cuts. But we'll have answers to that in the next coming days. Meta's flying. Yeah, Meta got upgraded to 585 today by Oppenheimer. So their thesis was like AI is going to just take these guys to the next level. Advertising is going to get even better. Meta is just one of those, man. They're just executing on all levels, buybacks, dividends. Advertising is their moat, and election season is starting pretty soon. It's just, it makes a lot of sense to see that this thing is going to run. The question is, can it run more than being up 50% year to date? I think that's going to be a hard one to see. Destiny Tech is down 6.5% after hours, that ETF we talked about. So that one was up 65% on the day, down 7% after hours right now. IWM up 0.55% on the day. Snowflake had a green day, up 0.65%. Coinbase 257 after hours, and then Bitcoin right here 71,644 on the day right now. Mark has more money than Elon. This is also correct. Zucks is worth more than Mr. Elon Musk as per the closing price of Meta last Friday, which is basically the same. So Meta is making Zucks, I think Zucks has like 180 billion or something, and Elon's at like 170 or something like that. But it's up. It is up now. So it's also going to be interesting to see, what Zucks does. I mean, we saw Tim Cook just sell 33 million shares or $33 million worth of Apple. Some of the NVIDIA insiders have been selling. Jensen hasn't sold in a while. Bezos obviously has been selling a ton. I think he sold like $4 or $5 billion worth, but still the market has just ate up those shares, even though the insiders have sold them. And they said, hey, we still think you're cheap because AI is going to put a dent on your numbers, and those numbers are going to be well. And so the market right now really does not care that much about these prices as long as these earnings can justify some of the multiples that we've seen over the past few weeks. Let's talk about Jamie Dimon. He put out a letter to shareholders today. This letter was also a little bit of fear mongering on his part. Basically, the synopsis of the letter is that he said he thinks inflation's coming down, but he thinks it's going to be sticky. And he also thinks that the geopolitical crises that we are in right now is one of the worst we have seen in a very, very long time. So right here, he says, across the globe, 2023 was yet another year of significant challenges, from the terrible ongoing war and violence in the Middle East and Ukraine, with mounting terrorist activity and ongoing geopolitical tensions, importantly with China. In the policy section, we talk about how we may be entering one of the most treacherous geopolitical eras since World War II. And I've written in the past about high levels of debt, fiscal stimulus, and ongoing deficit spending, and the unknown effects of quantitative tightening, which I am more worried about than most, so I won't repeat those views here. However, the impacts of these geopolitical and economic forces are large and somewhat are unprecedented. They may not be fully understood until they have completely played out over multiple years. I don't think he's wrong there. Maybe the impact's not going to happen in the near term, but I don't think he's wrong about the fact that if we have a new world order in regards to China potentially imposing their presence over Taiwan, and then that leading to potential war with the United States, if Russia does not leave Ukraine, if Russia chooses to go and mess with other Baltic states like Lithuania or Poland, there is a new geopolitical crisis that can be emerging over the next decade, which is, to me, unfortunately, but fortunately bullish for Palantir, because at the end of the day, this stuff is not stuff you want to see, but if it's going to happen, then you've got to take action and bet on the companies that are going to be resolving some of those things. On top of that, the Israel-Hamas situation is not getting any better, right? Like we know the Israel-Hamas situation is not getting any better. And the reason the Israel-Hamas situation is not getting any better is because these are two different ideologies that are competing with each other at a pretty intense rate, right? And there's been no real compromise on those ideologies going against each other. So one could argue that if those ideologies continue to go to their logical extent, there will be a lot of tension for a very long time, because the Palestinians aren't giving up the land. Israel continues to want Hamas to officially be gone, and they're not stopping until they're gone. And so geopolitically, you could definitely assume there's going to be a lot more tensions over the coming next decade. Project Identicable says, pure technical folks don't care about earnings. Amit thinks we should care about earnings. I agree, they're both important. I think technical folks actually do care about earnings. A lot of people who are deep into technical analysis, they get the bad rap that they don't care about fundamentals. To me, if you're a technical focused trader, you really care about market moving events. So if Amazon has earnings and you're trading earnings and you're focused on the technicals, yeah, you're coming up with a setup and you're trying to see what's the best exit and entry, but you're also looking for a catalyst that either takes the stock down or up. So I think if you are technical, you definitely do care about fundamentals, because you have to be technical on a company that hopefully is important, at least if you're just not like a blind technical trader. And earnings definitely play a role there to try to figure out what these look like as well. Okay, back to the comments around student loans, because I didn't get to go to that. So I'm seeing some people in the chat say that school loans or student loans are primarily rooted on yourself. So Eric here says colleges should pay students back if they rip them off, not other citizens. Joshkin says, I had a law professor who wrote a lot about student loan debt relief. Elizabeth Warren was her mentor, so you know her ideology. At the same time, she's making $400,000 a year, teaching one class a year. It's very interesting, just to speak on student loans for a bit, because my ideologies have shifted since I got older, right? When I was younger, I was like, yeah, we should forgive student loan debt. And like, it's such a burden. America spends so much money on defense. Why can't we spend money on student loans? I found a Facebook post the other day. A Facebook post popped up where I was like critiquing America for like spending so much money on defense. And now I'm over here like, run up the budget, dude. We need more money. We need to protect these fucking freedoms. Like, it's so crazy what happens when you grow older. The sad part is I have friends who have not grown older. And so to them, they still think of America as like the most evil country in the world and all that stuff, which at one point I think I did feel like when I was like, 14, 15 years old, when you're young and all this shit. But as you go older, you're like, wait a second, there's not that many better places to live. Second of all, the ideology of America rooted in individualism is actually incredibly unique. It's incredibly spiritual when you think about the sovereignty of the individual. And then third of all, like, there's a reason we spend money on defense, and there's not a reason we don't give money as handouts, even though we still give a shit ton of money to handouts, right? And I'm not against welfare by any sense of the imagination. I grew up on welfare to an extent as I was growing up. So like, it's not about canceling welfare. It's about reeling in some of the excessive spending. Student loans, I think, are one of those things that I've come to realize. If you take out a loan, one of the ways you learn about personal accountability and responsibility is if you pay back the fucking loan, dude. If you pay back the fucking loan. Now, you could argue that paying back that loan is predatory because getting the loan in the first place was predatory, but that's not a reason to forgive the loans. Like, this is the unique thing about the debate that I think a lot of people will agree with here in the chat. Most people agree that the loans are predatory, and if you can't get a loan from a bank to start a business at 18 years old, you definitely should not be getting $125,000 to go learn something that's probably pointless in college, right? So it's incredibly predatory. The colleges subsidize it, the government subsidizes the colleges being able to give you those loans. All of it is a game. It's all stupid. But that doesn't mean you forgive it. That means you reform that system. I think the Olin podcast a year ago, they had a really good episode just talking about the root cause of the system and like how America needs to solve that root cause, not just further feed into this ideology that students don't have any money because the colleges rip them off. It's like, no. A lot of those students weren't educated enough to understand the negotiation they were getting into, even if it was predatory. But that's because the system itself was based on predation, which we have to solve, not the loans being predatory, like, intrinsically is what I mean. And so I think a lot of people would agree we need to reform that system, but that doesn't mean you forgive the loans. Forgiving the loans doesn't really solve all of those problems at the end of the day. Zokol says, I hated my loans so much. I lived with my parents for 3 years and I paid back all my student loans. And see, to me, it's a slap in the face to people like Zokol, who's a hardworking mother effer, who's paying back his student loans. Like, I mean, dude, you got to live with your parents for 3 years just to pay those back to save on rent. That's a big deal. That's a big, big deal. Especially if you get a job that also, gives you enough money because you're adding value to society. And if you're adding value to society, theoretically, you should be getting compensated for that. And part of that compensation then not only does it go to taxes, but it also goes to paying off your obligations to be able to get you to get that job in the first place, which are your student loans. So if you're not having a job that allows you to contribute to society, that helps you pay off your loans, it begs the question, A, are you not searching hard enough for a job? B, are the jobs not out there? I think we can all agree, no, the jobs are fucking out there. Like, we have more jobs than we can know what to do with. Or C, did you just learn something that wasn't valuable enough to society? And I think the hard reality of it is sometimes we have to realize people are getting degrees and shit that just does not matter. Bitcoin right now, 71,576. And if you're getting degrees in something that does not matter, I think you have to take an honest look at yourself of just like, why am I, SoFi down about 1% after hours. Why am I in this situation? And if I'm in that situation because my degree does not matter, maybe I jerked off all throughout college and I really didn't do something that was worthwhile, which is why I'm not valuable in the marketplace. And that's the nature of capitalism as well. It's a ruthless market where if you provide value, you will be rewarded. That's one of the beautiful things about America. You provide value, you're rewarded. You don't provide value, you're not rewarded. And I think that's kind of the ideology that over governs how we think about student loans. DGAS says, problem is student loans have an interest rate. I agree. Maybe there's some reform you could do there. I mean, at the end of the day, the entire business of loans is on interest rates. I don't know how you can reform that entire system, but maybe there's something you could do there. Remember, a lot of loans aren't federal, they're private. So these, like SoFi, right? SoFi capitalizes off this shit with interest rates. So I don't know if you could federally get rid of the interest rate, but that is a big deal. when it comes to interest rates. Jed has a very interesting suggestion in the chat. Pay it back with military service. Interesting. I've never heard of that idea. Pay it back with military service. And, we do have the public loan forgiveness program, but that's not literally getting rid of your loans. Like, let's say you're $50,000 in debt. I wonder if Biden came out and said, hey, if you sign up for the military, which, by the way, from my understanding, the military, the army, they're going through a talent shortage because people just don't want to work in the army anymore or represent the United States because of the sort of ideology that America's evil, right? And people don't want to necessarily defend Western values. So maybe that's a way to pay off your student loans. You serve in the military. It's not a horrible idea. Yeah, Bay Ray, who's in the military right now, that isn't a bad idea. Military enlistment numbers are bad right now. Yeah, there you go. That's actually not the craziest idea, dude. Because again, like I don't think of it as like, see, given the democratization of entrepreneurship, I also don't think the narrative would be, America's trapping you in a horrible student loan system by subsidizing you going to college, and then to pay back those loans, they're forcing you to go to the military. So America is just like creating this evil trap to get you into the military. A, you don't have to take a student loan. B, you don't have to go to college. C, even though education is the defining variable for living a middle class life, right? Forget rich or super successful, just like middle class, you need some level of education. Education does not have to be a bachelor's degree, dude. Education could be learning some shit on YouTube. Education can be so much more than traditionally how we've conceptualized education to be. So the idea that America's forcing you to get an education, and a crappy education at that, I just think is not true. There are people on their phones, making thousands of dollars a month just doing things that, didn't exist before, like selling things on Shopify or doing social media or whatever it may be, or learning technical analysis so they can trade stocks. Like, there's just so much out there that doesn't require an actual 4-year degree. And so it's hard to imagine that you need to go to college to get an education. It's like, no, you don't. You can get an education from a lot of other places. It doesn't just have to be college. Jet says, right now, most folks who join are from the poor states or who were jobless when I joined. At least you'd be enlisting college-educated folks. That's also true. A lot of people are relatively poor, and they use the military as an option to kind of find a way out from their circumstances. So Jed's argument is, hey, at least you have people who are college-educated if you are joining the military. It's not the craziest idea. It's really not. And it also would be an incentive to not get a crappy education and to not get a crappy degree if you're getting loans, because the only way of paying it back is either physically pay it back, which obviously is very hard to do, or join the military. I mean, like, I'd rather pay my loans back than join the military personally, right? Like, I'm sure people would not want to be stuck in the military for a while if that's not what they actually want to do. So it might be a counter incentive or it might be an incentive to actually pay back the loans in a meaningful way. People start college when they're still young and clueless. They don't know what they're getting into. The student debt situation preys on them. I agree 100%. Jeremy says, my success has come from the internet, not school. Dude, I agree with you. I was in a part-time job, not a part-time job. I had a consulting firm and I had a client. I just worked a lot of hours for that client, so it felt like a part-time job. My senior year, and that client was like, dude, can you give me like 20 more hours a week? And I was like, nah, dude, I got school. They're like, why the fuck are you in? Like, I'm paying you like $7,000 a month. Why do you need to be in school? Like, you're making money. Why are you? And I was like, dude, I got to finish school. So I agree. There's so many ways to make money and to actually provide value to the marketplace without having to get an education from school. But a lot of people, when they're young and I've realized most people aren't mature when they're exiting high school. And I say that as someone who, I don't think I was overly mature, but I definitely wasn't immature when I was exiting high school. I was immature in a lot of different ways, but when it came to like career and aspirations, I had some understanding of what I wanted to do. And I was always kind of like ambitious, but most people, they're not. And college is kind of the place for them to be clueless, which is fine. But if college is the place for you to be clueless while you're racking up hundreds of thousands in debt, that's just not going to be sustainable. There's just no way our country survives with the student debt crisis, or people survive taking on that much debt. There's just no way. Michael Rosen says, I got a degree. I believe I'm smart. I can't get a job yet. I stay home earning 30% returns on stocks. What does that mean? Well, that means you understand the stock market, dude. I mean, that's the other thing. That's what Brad Gerstner's plan. I actually really agree with that plan to start a fund for kids 0 to 18 years old, $2,500 or something a year as they invested in the S&P when they grow up, as they get older. I think that's a great idea. The question is just, will America be able to actually instill that type of financial literacy into kids? And we're all weird. All of us here actually care about student loans, or not student loans. We care about the stock market, which means we also care about student loans and how it affects the stock market. Most people do not give a shit about the stock market, and trying to get people to care. Dude, I've tried with my sister. I've really tried to get my sister to care about the stock market. She just doesn't care. Like, I'm like, yeah, but like you can make money. She doesn't care. People just don't care, dude. That's the other problem. At some point, we have to also not feel as bad for people with all these student loans, because at some point, people legitimately just don't care about their life, and they'll take on a ton of debt, and they'll just jerk off and not care. And they won't even try to get educated about like the stock market or learning about different ways for financial freedom. Like, no, people just don't care. All right, if you don't care, then you're stuck with the debt, dude. At some point, like, you got to care. You got to care. But a lot of people don't. Are there any earnings? No earnings today. No big earnings today either. Savici says college books are dumb, money, fees, and food, etc. We are marketed. If you don't have a degree, you're not anything is the motto from our past generations. Yeah, and look, my parents had the same belief, right? My parents were like, hey, if you don't get a degree, you're going to be a failure. Now, while I started making money in college, my parents really realized that, okay, he's going to finish his degree, but he's not going to do anything with the degree because he's too much of an entrepreneur. He's too much of his own man, right? But I think in general, most people can find avenues towards success or to get even decent paying jobs. If you have that much in student loans and you don't have a decent paying job, it's because you got a really crappy degree. And the problem is, for 4 years, how do you get a degree in something that you know has no value to the marketplace? I think what it says is that if you're getting a degree in, art history, I'll put that out there. I'm not, no shade to people who have art history degrees, but if you get a degree in art history for 4 years, if you have not thought, how can this degree make me valuable to the broader planet? Meaning I provide a service and I get paid for that. If for 4 years you did not pontificate that thought, it goes to show that you just weren't thinking at all while you were getting that degree. And now you get out of college and now you can't do anything with the degree. Well, you didn't think about it. And I think you do need to think about it a lot more. I think everyone needs to think about it a lot more. And most of us here in the chat cared, but a lot of college kids just don't. A lot of college kids just do not care. All right, what else do we have in the markets? That was the like 10-minute rant on student loans. I mean, look, the overall implication of this is Biden is not printing any more money. It was marketed, this event today, as some magical reform. Again, we talked about it 10 minutes ago. There's no reform. There's just extensions of programs that have happened in the past. So a little bit of marketing, nothing too crazy there. Bitcoin, 71,510. Snowflake, 154. Coinbase, 257. SoFi down about 1.1% after hours. And Palantir, 22.99 after hours, down 0.04% as well. All right, nothing crazy. John says literature degree here, long and successful career in IT. And so, see, this is what I like to see, because if the literature degree did not get you the job, or maybe it helped you get the job, but ultimately you had to learn how to get a successful career in IT, which obviously is a bit more technical than literature. That means you took onus on yourself. You took responsibility and you figured out, how can I add value to the broader marketplace? Most philosophy majors end up becoming consultants, right? So people say philosophy is a useless degree. I actually think philosophy is incredibly important to getting you to learn how to think. And there are applications of knowing how to think in the workplace for a living, aka consultants. There's hundreds of thousands of consultants, Accenture, Deloitte, KPMG, Guidehouse. There's so many consulting firms that hire people that are just good problem solvers. So you can take a liberal arts degree and make it and monetize it. The question becomes, do you have the ambition to do it? Do you have the incentive to do it? And do you have the personal responsibility to figure out how to do it, even if the degree is not like a software engineer? And I think there are people that feel that way, but there's a lot of people that don't. And then they end up getting stuck saying that they can't pay back the loans because they're not actually thinking of how they can figure out how to monetize it. Real baby Pluter, philosophy major here, lawyer. Yep. Law is another degree, communication, philosophy, all of that can lead. That's so helpful for lawyers. But you got to go through the work of actually trying to become a lawyer to get there. Political science degree made you good at sales. Yeah. See, I mean, debate in high school made me decent at talking and communication, right? So there's always these applications from stuff. But like, it's funny because I did debate in college. I debate in high school with my friends, right? And you could argue some of my friends were even better than me when they were seniors, and I was a junior. By the time I became a senior, I got pretty decent. But they didn't build businesses off their debate skills. Like, I have some friends to this day that I'm still monetizing those skills today. I have clients here and there. Like, they never thought, hey, how can I turn this into a business? As soon as I graduated, I was like, yo, how can I make money off of this shit? And the first time I figured out how to make money, I was like, how can I make more money? And then I started figuring out what it means to market yourself and scale and like advertise and all this shit. But I had a lot of friends who had those same skills that just weren't ambitious enough to monetize it. And so I think at the end of the day, it comes down to, what you really want to do with your skill sets. All right, guys, that's it for me. Thank you, everybody, for joining today on the market close. Nothing too crazy in the markets other than Tesla doing phenomenal today. CPI on Wednesday. We'll see how the market reacts to that tomorrow. And then Bitcoin, 71,000, holding that $70,000 range. Wow, look at what Jojo says. I raked $300,000 10 years ago from making Justin Bieber fan sites when I was 19. Dude, that's like... See, this is the cool thing about this chat and this community. We're all a bunch of hustlers, go-getters, looking at the stock market. We're trying to figure shit out. Unfortunately, a lot of people just don't have those same incentives, right? And so it is what it is. Okay, so we're done for the day. Finance Junkies at 9 p.m. I'll be live with Chris from Data Driven Investing on Twitter at 7 p.m. talking about SoFi. So we'll do a Twitter Spaces. I'm putting the Twitter in the chat. If you're curious about SoFi, expectations for SoFi, please make sure to follow on Twitter. 8 p.m. we'll be doing that Twitter Spaces, and then Daily Pound Tree will be out in 2 hours. It'll be out 6 p.m. today, and so that new Daily Pound Tree episode will be out later today. All right, I'm going to the gym. As you can see, I'm wearing a sweatshirt. I'm getting my ass back into the gym. It's been like 2 months. I am officially getting ready for the summer. Last 2 months, I want to take the lazy excuse and say that my life's been kind of crazy, which my life has been kind of crazy. It's really hard to work out when you're like, going to interview all these people and doing all this stuff, running around New York City. But that's a lame excuse. And I'm officially getting back to eating healthy. I had my one meal of the day. My one meal is done. I'm going to work out. I'll be back. Twitter Spaces, Finance Junkies, and then I'm going to sleep, and we're going to do the whole thing over again. So we're getting back. Target weight is 145. We're kind of at that 167-ish range. So we got to get all the way back down to 145 like I was in October. And Bay Ray with the caps in the chat. You know what? That motivates me. That motivates me. That motivates me. This cap's about to be sweaty once I go to the gym. But we're going to get this workout back in. One thing I will say about the gym, one thing I've noticed, I went to the gym like a month ago. I tried to do like cardio. You guys remember, some of the OG people will remember, when I was running back in August, July, September, October, I was doing 1,000 calories in an hour. Like I was like running, I was an Energizer bunny on the treadmill. I got on the treadmill a month ago and I hated it, dude. Something has changed and I'm trying to figure out philosophically what has happened or psychologically. I don't like running anymore. And I'm trying to say, is that a bullshit excuse? I'm just saying I don't like it. Or do I genuinely not like running anymore? I'm going to find out tonight. I'm going to go to the gym right now and see how much I hate running. But I'm trying to find that competitive kind of fervor I had for running and beating the treadmill at its own game, because I lost it. I really lost it over the past like 2 months. But I need to get it back, because when I was burning 1,000 calories in an hour, dude, I was at a different level. First of all, I felt great afterwards. And also it's like, once you burn 1,000 calories, you're like, holy shit, you're really at a calorie deficit, which is good. So Doug says, yeah, your BSing cardio just sucks. But see, the thing is, I loved cardio when I was doing 1,000 calories an hour. I fucking loved it. I just loved doing it. And now I'm just like, I just don't enjoy it anymore. But we'll see today. I'll update you guys tomorrow if I can find that love back for cardio. Because I like running. Or I used to like running. And we'll see if I can like running again. ET says, I realized I needed my exercise to be some sort of play, so it wasn't the same thing every day. Well, the thing is, when I get on the treadmill and I put on music, that's how I escape and I'm able to run that fast and for that long. But even that hasn't worked over the past couple months. So we'll see. We'll see if we can get there. All right. Thank you, everybody. Appreciate it. I will see you guys tomorrow, 8:45 a.m. Eastern. Bye, everyone. Have a good one. See you tomorrow. Good night.